Okay, it looks like we're live. Hello, everyone. Comment in the chat where you're tuning from. Thank you so much for coming on to this Fireside Chat with Intermakers and Anthony. Anthony will be very valuable for our community to learn about your experience and how they can land their dream internship or job. And Intermakers truly believes that stories can change lives, and we hope that someone out there can listen to your story and be inspired by it. So to kick us off, can you go ahead and share your story and a little bit more background as to who you are?
Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely agree. Hopefully something I say resonates with someone. And if we can make a change, that's all I'm all for. But yeah, nice to be on here and speaking to everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Anthony, first generation college graduate there, graduated from Arizona State. First, interestingly enough, I went in as a psychology major, interesting classes and whatnot. Ended up switching that up and decided to go to the business school there, where I got my Bachelor of Arts in Business Communication. But then I ended up minoring in psychology, so I didn't go too far. So that's a little bit about my university background. So if there's anyone, I'm not too sure where the base is, but if anyone's a Sun Devil, definitely please feel free to reach out. Or not, I guess it's okay. But currently, I'm sure we'll talk about it more as well, but currently supporting the data science and engineering team at Netflix. So it's a pretty fun ride from graduating. If you would have told me I'd be working for Netflix after my graduation, I probably wouldn't have believed you, but I'm glad we're here today.
That's awesome. Yeah, just from talking to you before this, it looks like you've had a lot of other experience other than Netflix. So do you mind sharing kind of like what company you started off and what led you to Netflix?
Of course. Yeah, happy to chat about that. My first, I guess, official internship was actually with my local Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So that was great. Definitely a small but mighty group there. Got the opportunity to do a lot of networking and events and all of that. So it was a great experience. And then while doing that in school, I was able to connect a lot with my career coach. So definitely would recommend that. If your school or university has that, I spent a lot of time talking with my career coach about interviews, mock interviews, resume tips, and just overall how to respond to emails and stuff. So that was a great tool for me to utilize there. But he put me in contact with a recruiter who hires interns for Arizona Public Service, so APS, utility, kind of like SRP or even kind of wherever it is that your electric utility is, that where you're located. So I got to get into recruiting that way because it was a opportunity to go and do recruiting. Wanted to give that a shot because I was having those conversations with my career coach that I wanted to get in an internship. I was considering human resources or marketing, and this internship within human resources came along. So I wanted to give that a try, and I really enjoyed it. So was able to do that internship there. Unfortunately didn't work out to where I got a full-time opportunity there, but I was able to land a recruiting coordinator job over there with Boeing. So that was a great large company to get my feet in at the door, foot in the door, and I should say. And then from there was lucky enough to be, and we could chat about that as well, because I actually applied to a job that I didn't qualify for at Intel. But the manager really liked my profile, so we kept in touch. And then from there, I was able to join Intel, another large company, to get in on some technical recruiting. And then from there, I'm able to find this opportunity within Netflix. So hopefully that wasn't a little bit too long-winded there.
No, love all the detail. So you mentioned that a role you applied to at Intel didn't necessarily work out, but what do you think like really helped to still land that role? I think that can be something that's like super helpful and applicable to like anyone. Sorry, excuse me. That might not work out for like one role, but still like being able to like keep that connection like with either whoever is like interviewing you or like the hiring manager can really like go a long way. So would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Of course, yeah. So that I went into it knowing that I wasn't going to get it, because clearly on the job description they were looking for somebody that had multiple years of recruiting experience. But I was really interested in Intel at the time, and I really wanted to at least apply to the role. And I went in with the mindset of you never know what might happen. And I guess I'm glad I took that risk, because again, the leader reached out to me and said, hey, clearly this isn't the role, but I like your background, of course, because with the information I had on my resume from some of my responsibilities and my background at Boeing, and of course some of the other internships we talked about here today. He invited me over to Intel to have just like a coffee and just have a chat. And so we did, and he mentioned that you know, that conversation went well. It was nice meeting me, and let's kind of keep in touch.
It looks like we might have lost some connection with Anthony, but I'm sure he'll come back on as soon as the Wi-Fi reconnects. Just some classic troubles, right? Working from home and such.
Ooh, okay.
No worries. You're back on.
Sorry about that. Not too sure what went on there, but anywho, where I was is pretty much when I was getting at is definitely be patient if you can. Definitely when you have the opportunities to connect with folks, take advantage of that. Ask lots of questions, which is what I did during the time that I had to meet with this specific hiring manager, and you know, of course, from there, you know, we kept in touch, and then the role came along that I eventually got hired for at Intel. So overall, take some risks if you can, but definitely be patient and keep in touch for those future opportunities.
No, yeah, I love how you emphasize that, and completely like echoing everything that you just said. Like, even if for whatever reason, like things might not work out at one point, like just never like shut that door completely, right? And just keep on trying, because you just never know. Like sometimes it's just like a timing issue, or there's just so many other factors like you can't necessarily control. So yeah, definitely don't let that discourage y'all, anyone that's tuning into the live. So diving deeper into recruiting, what made you want to pursue a recruiting role?
Yeah, great question. So I was curious about human resources in general. So I just wanted to learn more about that because I had an aunt that was doing human resources for kind of like a local retail company. And she seemed to enjoy her work. And so I had a couple conversations with her and decided I wanted to kind of try that out. And really had the opportunity to leverage and kind of gain that experience during the internship at the APS, that utility company I was talking about. I really enjoyed it since that was my first kind of opportunity to work within human resources, specifically within recruiting. So that's why I utilized that opportunity within my internship to really see like, hey, is this something that I enjoy, something that I can see myself doing? And of course, so I really found myself wanting to do that because again, getting that internship experience, getting your feet wet, seeing like, hey, can I see myself doing this? You know, what are some of the challenges that I face? What I like about the role, what I don't like, those types of things there. So definitely that internship was key in kind of guiding me and really help fueling my decision to then continue along recruiting.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I also see the similarity there with psychology, right? Like being able to learn about like people, like personality. I could relate. I like majored in cognitive science and took some psych classes. So really comes in handy for like anything, right? Like not only recruiting, but really any position, because you're constantly dealing with people. Anywhere you end up, right? Or whatever you're doing. But tuning or changing topics a little bit here. What makes a successful candidate?
Yeah, great question. I think, of course, it varies, but I think a successful candidate. Oh, we're here. Okay, so hopefully I didn't get too cut off there. But like I mentioned, a successful candidate is one that is very prepared, and one that just demonstrates passion for the role. So as a recruiter, it's no fun when I speak with candidates and you can kind of get a hint or a feel that they're just looking to apply just kind of for the sake of it. I really enjoy my conversations, and really I'm on the side of those candidates where when we have those conversations, they demonstrate a real passion and real interest in the role. Of course, that doesn't mean you only have to apply to one role over the other, but of course, if you can demonstrate your real interest in the role and come prepared with lots of questions and kind of examples as to why you feel that you're most qualified for the role you're looking at, and even the company, I think that would definitely enable you to be successful.
No, yeah, I think that's a really good point, right? Like making sure like you're doing your research as a candidate and really just asking a lot of questions that you might not be able to find like easily like via the web. I think recruiters, from what I've heard, not only from you, Anthony, but from other recruiters, like really appreciate when candidates really go that extra mile. And another question here: what helps you remember a candidate that you interviewed?
Yeah, I love that question. I'm trying to think about some of the candidates that I can remember today. I can some I guess are similar along the lines of they were well prepared, but they approached me not as a recruiter, but approached me more as like our conversation wasn't transactional. It was more so like an actual conversation. So like they were able to show some personality and be themselves, but also demonstrate that they have the ability and the interest in all the and the passion for the role that we were talking about. So those types of candidates are always fun to interact with. Maybe we've even had a couple laughs and something like that. So ultimately, if you can be yourself and have genuine conversations, I think that will go a long way into having the recruiter remember your conversation as well.
No, yeah, I think that's a really solid point. Just trying to remember to approach recruiters like any other human being, right? Because I mean, they are. And
We are.
I think how like really like what you emphasized, right, of how you felt like this individual like really just approached you like a friend, and you could just be yourself. I think that just also helps like just make the conversation so much more comfortable and interesting, and really just being yourself. I think goes a long way, not only like when just like having like maybe like a quick like 15-minute chat with the recruiter, but even like when it comes to like interviewing, right? Like, and that kind of leads into our next question, which is like, what's your best like interview tip and resume tip?
Gotcha. There's a lot of interview tips that I was thinking about, and definitely, like we talked about some of them here today. Also, like be prepared, ask lots of questions. But I definitely want to hone in and emphasize asking lots of questions, because you actually would be surprised on how often that one step is overlooked in the interview process. So as far as where candidates actually take the time and ask questions of the team, the company, the role, if you just come in and only answer the questions that you're asked, that's great. There's definitely one part of it, but definitely go a step further and ask any lingering questions or anything like that, because that's one piece that has been really surprising to see that it gets overlooked as often as it sometimes does. And then on the similar point for the resume, I would say definitely make sure that it is clean and that it is tailored to the role that you are applying for. Because of course, a lot of the other important information needs to be on there as far as your name, your contact information as a recruiter. I would love to be able to, of course, clearly see your name, see your email, your phone number, of course. And then, of course, if you have a LinkedIn, which most folks do, if you have a link, your LinkedIn in there, that's always helpful. But going back onto my point there, definitely make sure your opportunity is tailored, because if you have a blank resume or a bland resume that you just kind of apply to a bunch of different roles for, it's not really going to be of great use to you. Definitely, of course, if there's the items in the job description that you can highlight and maybe even change some sentences or using impact words within your resume, that'd also be helpful and whatnot. So I hope that is definitely a kind of some of the things that we can go on and on about resumes, but there's some of the things that are top of mind for me.
Yeah, thanks for those gems, Anthony. And I want to hear your take about having a summary on your resume. Like, what do you think about folks doing that?
Yeah, that's definitely, of course, it's up to the person of how they like to drive the resume. Each part of a resume, it's quality real estate, of course. So if you're going to have a summary, make sure it's not too long. I would say make sure it's very impactful, or even driving at what it is that you want to do with your career. Maybe even keep, or maybe even add some buzzwords into there. Maybe some tools or technologies that you've worked with, or even kind of some projects that you had. Kind of highlight some of those and kind of why you'd be interested in the specific role. So I myself don't have a summary in my resume, but of course, if you're going to write one, make sure it's very impactful. And of course, I would say keep it short and sweet. That way you can also ensure you have enough space for your experience, projects, education, all the other relevant information as well.
Gotcha. Thanks for answering that. Changing topic just a little bit, not too much, but advice that you have for like anyone looking for an internship or on the job hunt.
Yeah, I would say definitely, especially these days, I think a lot of it, the competition is great. So I would say keep patient, but keep persistent. I would say I mean, for me, when I was looking for an internship, I had my top pretty much 5 companies that I really wanted to intern for. But of course, you have to expand that list as well, because it is important to get in and get those internships and kind of get that experience for your resume, but also for you, because if you can get in, even if it's a smaller company, doing whatever it is. In my case, if it was recruiting or human resources, if I was able to do that even at a smaller company, as long as you can get in and get that experience and really understand if this is something that you want to do, that's definitely key. So I would say, like I said, keep patient, but keep persistent. Network a lot. Definitely utilize LinkedIn. I utilized what was told to me to be the student card. Definitely reach out to folks on LinkedIn. Say, hey, I'm a student. I see you're a XYZ at such and such company. I would love to learn more about, if we can chat and if you could talk about the company. I've utilizing that, and of course nowadays it wouldn't be like coffee chats or anything like that. But of course, once it's safe to do so, maybe utilizing that, or even of course time being utilizing Zoom. But networking is definitely key, is kind of the overall point that I'm getting at. So those are a couple of things I would say in terms of how to approach your internship, or even if you're looking for full-time opportunities.
No, yeah, I love that. And I like how you emphasize the student card. I think that's something that's like very underrated. But I mean, it's true, like it works. And I mean, I feel like even during these times, and regardless of these crazy times that we're all undergoing together, like professionals like want to help. Like people just want to help out. And it's okay if like you reach out to one professional, like you don't hear back, like it's fine. Like just just move on to the next, right? Like just because like that individual like just might be so busy with whatever happens in life to all of us. It's okay, just keep on like sending out like those like personalized invites, right?
Yes.
To professionals, and you'll get a response, and all you need is like that one response, right? To hop on like a virtual Zoom call, Google. There's so many platforms out there that y'all can use. But I would love to hear also your advice on if you're on the job hunt or internship hunt, and how to approach recruiters specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So I think you said it there pretty nicely there. Also, definitely utilize your channels there for sure, networking or even LinkedIn or whatever modes. But definitely make sure it's personalized. You'd be surprised. I've gotten messages where it's like, "Hey," and it's like not even my name. It's like, okay, like that's it's like, yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, I can see you're trying, but you missed it there. So no, that's not a good first impression. So definitely make sure that all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed when you're reaching out to recruiters. But also, if you approach it I would recommend approaching from a stance of genuine interest more so than a transaction, because of course, just like you mentioned there, you will get responses, but a lot of the times you will not as well, because folks are busy, or even maybe the person you reached out to, only as a recruiter only hires for a different function, or maybe even doesn't touch any of the area that you're looking for. So definitely heavy emphasis on go ahead and reach out, but definitely make sure that your messages are tailored there. And of course, feel free to reach out to as many recruiters as you can within different companies, because again, you will get some, but you won't as well. So just keep patient, keep persistent is the overall theme that I like to push here.
Yeah, I love that. I like how you keep on emphasizing that, because it's so true. But also to your point, like you made a really good point of how maybe like doing extra research and making sure that you're reaching out to the correct recruiter, right? Because there's so many different recruiters, like from university recruiters to like senior level and all these different roles. So that's probably like can be another reason why you aren't hearing back. Do you have any hacks there on how to find, like, let's say that I'm looking for like a full-time role for like Netflix, and how, if I were on LinkedIn, like how would I find like university recruiter?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say definitely look at the LinkedIn profile. I even myself, I have links to the types of roles that I hire for on my LinkedIn, so you can look at that and kind of see it and get a general feel of the roles that I myself are working on. Of course, if it's a blank um, profile, or even if the recruiter doesn't have that much information, maybe it's okay to kind of lean in and take that risk and reach out. But oftentimes recruiters will mention university recruiter, or like they will mention what type of recruiting they do within their profile, because of course as a recruiter we want, if for in my case, I'm looking for folks to join a data science and engineering organization. If somebody's interested in joining that team at Netflix, I want them to be able to go to my profile and see, okay, these are the types of roles, and I can reach out to Anthony. So I guess that's how I would say, definitely feel free to look at the LinkedIn profile. Oftentimes it'll be indicated in there, but if not, feel free to reach out, because you never know. Or even sometimes they can say, hey, I don't, but I know such and such, and make that introduction as well. So definitely feel free to kind of lean and take risks sometimes.
Yeah, sweet. That's so true. Like you never know like what the professional or connection the professional can go ahead and make for you. Anyone that's watching live, feel free to put your questions in the chat. I'm going to ask a couple more, and then we'll go ahead and look through the comments and find those questions and go ahead and ask Anthony those. But kind of making it a little bit more fun here. What do you like to do outside of work? Like, how do you distress? Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's pretty key, right? I think I try to dabble in a bunch of other things, because I also grew up playing sports. I'm a huge athlete, so whether if I'm playing something or watching something, I'm a big soccer fan. So if there's any soccer fans here, definitely feel free to say hello. Of course, I think some of you may see my flag in the back of the team I support. So there's that. And also you see a bunch of pictures and books. I try reading. I play video games when I can, but I have two young ones, so hobbies and such mostly drive through them. So as far as like running around with them, and of course spending a lot of time with them is more so how I like to de-stress and take time away from all of the what I got to do day to day.
Yeah, love that. Before we open it up to Q&A, do you know right now if Netflix is offering opportunities or like virtual events?
Of course, I know Netflix has been hiring throughout all of this, and of course, I think we're continuing to do so. Virtual events, I haven't been too keen on them as of now. Of course, if you follow Netflix on LinkedIn or anything like that, of course, we can always announce that type of stuff as well. Of course, I know Netflix is a very definitely pre kind of all of this. Definitely, we would have host a lot of events. And whatnot, and a lot of partnerships. I also am involved in, if anyone has heard of Tequeria, it's also another good hub to look at, because they also host a lot of events as well. So that's also a good group to join, of course, for networking and such, not just for Netflix, but for other organizations too. So I am not too sure specifically, but of course, definitely that you can take a look there and find some other resources there if you want to get connected to folks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm looking up. I just found like Tequeria's link. I'm gonna drop that in the chat for anyone that might be interested. That's what Anthony just mentioned. But all right, we're gonna open it up to Q&A, and it looks like the first question we have here. Just going up, making sure I'm not missing any. A lot of folks saying hello. Looks like we have a lot from like Houston, Texas tuning in, which is cool.
Awesome.
We got like Sarah here. Casey.
Nice.
This is awesome. Okay, so it looks like the first question being asked is, how should you deal with rejection? As I'm getting a lot of rejection, should I just keep applying, or should I look into answers? And I'm not sure if, I'm assuming they're referring to interviews maybe in regards to answers, but maybe yeah, I want to go ahead and take a shot at this one.
Yeah, definitely. Here, definitely feel free to reach out to me if you have more specifics. But overall, with rejections, I would say definitely they are tough. I've been rejected from some of other companies as well, so it is hard, especially when you're really interested in the role or the company. So I know it can be tough. Definitely take it with a graceful mindset. Of course, it's tough. The competition out there is pretty. The bar of competition is pretty high. So definitely take it with grace, but also know that when a door closes, sometimes a better one opens. So I would say definitely don't beat yourself up too much. I would say if you can ask for feedback of the recruiter, if it's an interview, or again, it depends on the stage there. But if you can get feedback on what you can actually do to improve, I would say take that advice and run with it, and also prepare for your next interview or whatever the case may be. So again, take it with grace, but brush yourself off and get ready for the next one.
Yeah, I like that tip that you mentioned too, of like not being afraid to reach out to recruiters or interviewers for feedback, because y'all would be surprised like how they do that. And also just to your point of how like rejection can sometimes be like redirection, right? And like sometimes like timing just isn't it. So keep your head high to here. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name, and no, there's an opportunity out there for you. Just keep on pushing. You got this. Another question from Calvin: is it true that Netflix only hires senior level engineers?
Yeah, great question, Calvin. I think for the most part, senior level, it can vary a little bit because we definitely look to hire for the dream team would be. So I've seen in my case, sometimes it is folks that have multiple years of experience. Sometimes it's folks that do not. It depends on the team and the opportunity. But also, I believe we've also had. I think it's not something that we've done too many times, but we're also hiring in. I'm not sure yet about this year, but we've done internships in the past. So it's something that Netflix also does hire for. Maybe not as large as some other the organizations like our competitors have, or maybe not as large as in terms of amount of internships, but we have some, and also it does vary. You'll see a lot of that too is Netflix. The titles are we don't like to. We kind of step away from the titling and that type of stuff. So that's why I look at our jobs page. You'll see senior and senior engineering. Even for myself as a technical recruiting researcher within Netflix, none of us have senior or junior or anything like that. We're all just kind of similar in title. So for the most part, that can be true, but it also does depend, Calvin. So definitely, again, just like how I do with Intel, if you see a role that you're interested in at Netflix, no harm in reaching out. And of course, since I am joining here, feel free to reach out to me. We could always talk about roles that you're interested in at Netflix as well.
Yeah, anyone tuning into live, feel free to connect with Anthony via LinkedIn, send him that personalized invite. Another question here from Michelle: what's your advice on getting your first internship as a first-year college student with not a lot of relevant coursework yet?
Wow, that's awesome, Michelle. I think even myself, I didn't get my first internship, I think, until my junior or senior year. So you're way ahead of the game. So I would say definitely it will be a little bit more tough, but of course, if you can lean in on volunteering experience or whatnot, or even just kind of keep explore kind of what types of internships you can get. Maybe even start with a smaller type of organization, because of course a lot of these other big tech companies, they definitely look at folks that, because of course the typical intent of an internship is to hire. So with you being in your first year of school, the timing may not be right, but of course if you can start with maybe even an internship that again doesn't or that is open to that. So I would say definitely lean into what coursework you do have already and utilizing your resume. And of course, if you have volunteer experience, definitely you can highlight that, because I can imagine the years of experience or kind of that type of stuff may not be as much. But again, definitely feel free to lean in and ask those questions and whatnot. So definitely, I love it that you're ahead of the curve there for sure.
Yeah, way to go, Michelle. Similar to you, Anthony. Like, I don't think I got my first internship until like my junior year of college. So props to you. Something I wanted to actually ask as a follow-up to Michelle's question. So if you're first year, would you also encourage to maybe like lean into any organizations you're part of during high school and like emphasize that on the resume if it's applicable to the role?
Yeah, I would say so, especially since if you're still first year, that it hasn't been that not much time has passed since. So definitely feel free to lean in onto that as well. Of course, as you get further into your college career, maybe kind of the high school will start to have to fall off. But of course, first year, definitely, I would call it fair game for sure.
Sweet. Here's another question asking about your general advice on portfolios.
Gotcha. Vivian, definitely feel free to reach out to me so I can get a little bit more specific onto exactly what you're looking for. But in terms of general advice, I guess for that there, I mean, I definitely would, just like everything else, kind of with resume and maybe even cover letter and that type of stuff, make sure all of that is definitely easily accessible, clear, well thought out, well put together. But Vivian, definitely reach out to me again, because I would love to hear a little bit more about specifically what type of portfolio or that type of stuff that you're talking about.
Yes, Vivian sent Anthony a personalized invite. Let me reword this question. So sure. What does Netflix look for when considering intern candidates?
Yeah, hi, Hassan. Definitely it can vary, because like I said, Netflix is something that's pretty new. So definitely look at the jobs, our jobs career page, and if it's on, if we're hiring for internships, it'll be on there. And definitely look at kind of what the job description has, because of course we as recruiters and the recruiting team, inclusive of the hiring manager, spend a lot of time and actually going through that and ensuring that it's well written and it's well reflective of what we're looking for. So you'll see the requirements and kind of what we're expecting and the type of stuff there. So definitely take a look at that. It'll give a well put idea as to what the role is and kind of what we're expecting and looking for in an intern.
Yeah, here's another question. I think it's from the same person of what modern technologies is Netflix working on?
Yeah, I'll keep that high level because I think I don't want to share too much there. But definitely, I would say that Netflix is definitely always on the hunt for that innovation, and so definitely all of the, depending on what kind of role you're working on. So software, again, on my end, I work for data science and engineering, so I hire a lot of data engineers. Definitely looking at technologies that can deal with large amounts and large scales of data. Of course, with our service being as large as it is and continuing to grow, hopefully, lots of information to deal with. So definitely, modern tech, I would say for sure.
Nice. This is an interesting question. Do you feel like the culture has changed at Netflix since the global pandemic?
Ooh, great question. I love that one. I would say no. I would say we definitely, again, with Netflix, and even anyone else out there, feel free to take a look at our careers page. There's a lot of information, inclusive of our culture memo. I would say, in my experience working at Netflix, we definitely hold ourselves accountable to that. So we're definitely always looking to make sure that we work to that as much as possible. I would say the biggest thing, and the thing I appreciate the most of my colleagues and peers, is that we've been a lot more, I would say it's been a lot more top of mind to ensure that our colleagues are taking the time off, or even making sure that they're not working too long of hours, of course. So we've been a lot more mindful of making sure that folks definitely take the time to kind of recharge and that type of stuff there. So I would say we definitely look to stick as close to our culture as we can, even during all of this. Great question.
Sweet, that's awesome. I love how Netflix is doing that. And I'm going to throw another fun question in there before we continue with the questions we have in the comments. But what's your favorite Netflix show? I mean, I know since you started quarantine, I've been watching a lot of Netflix. I'm actually currently watching Dexter all over again. So yeah, what's yours?
That's a good one. Unfortunately, it wasn't produced by Netflix, but it's on there, so it's a great one. One of my favorites as well. It's tough. There's a lot of good ones, but the first one that comes to mind is Casa De Papel. That one continuously keeps me on the edge of my seat there. So I love that one. So I look forward to kind of seeing when the new season comes out and all of that stuff, if there's another one. But I think they're mentioned something like that. But anyways, yeah, that's my favorite one for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good one. My family and I also binge watched that earlier. A couple months ago. Okay, back to audience questions. Any advice for someone who wants to join HR at Netflix? How many years of experience do you look for? That's a good question.
Yeah, great question. Definitely. Again, hopefully saying the name correctly, but for now, definitely feel free to reach out to me. We could also have that additional conversation as well. And like I mentioned even before, when it comes to kind of, I think Calvin asked that question as well. I think it varies. So definitely take a look at the job description. I think if there's an open role within HR at Netflix, take a look at it. If it doesn't indicate years of experience, look at some of the just the other information on there, kind of what we're expecting, what we're looking for. So because it can vary. So definitely, if you have interest in that, definitely feel free to reach out to me, and also again look at the job description, because all of everything that we're looking for will be indicated on there for sure.
Awesome. Nia is wondering what your day-to-day looks like and how that's changed due to COVID, and any Netflix show recommendations.
Awesome. My day, I guess the biggest change of my day-to-day, of course, unfortunately, I don't get to interact with and have direct meetings with my colleagues as much as before. We at Netflix lean into being a very collaborative type of environment. So where we have lots of one-on-ones, lots of group meetings and that type of stuff. So that's been the biggest change, to then shifting, instead of meeting in person, to meeting over the computer. So I talk just like here, talking into the computer a lot is the biggest change. But day to day, definitely can vary, because I'm in meetings. I meet with my colleagues there, my hiring team, kind of talk about how it's going with our recruiting for the roles that we're working on. But also, I spend a lot of time, of course, going through LinkedIn or other channels, of course, to find folks to share the opportunities that we have in Netflix with. Of course, and then also lots of phone calls as well, as far as like learning more about their background, talking about Netflix and the team. So yeah, so I guess that's kind of more of the day to day. So that hasn't changed too much. It's just the biggest minus is that kind of in-person interaction there. And Netflix show recommendations, of course, I think we talked about it here a little bit, right? So I like Casa De Papel. So Nia, if you haven't seen that one, and you're in, feel free to take a look at the trailer. It's a really good one. I like it. There's a bunch of other ones. I think Netflix has a lot of content that that if you want to explore, even kind of take a step outside of your genre, there's a lot for you there as well. So feel free to take a look there. But
No,
I'm
yeah,
gonna keep saying Casa de Papel for sure.
yeah, completely echoing everything Anthony just said. Casa de Papel, or sometimes otherwise known as Money Heist, is such an amazing show. Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. Sweet. Another question here: what makes a successful employee? What projects? Maybe like what projects like employees like get to work on, and that obviously will vary depending on the division.
Yep, exactly. That varies, and I would say success is definitely key. It's key to check in with whoever your manager would be in terms of what success looks like. I regularly have those conversations with my leaders, like, hey, am I performing where I should be? What's feedback for me? So definitely, I would say make sure that you check in with your leader as far as are you kind of doing, and then just like this case here, are there any projects you could take on, any additional work that you can be doing to kind of make that next level jump? But definitely making sure that you kind of have that conversation with your manager as far as ensuring their performance is there and you're overall successful, because of course don't want to have those misses for sure.
Right. And I think here's a follow-up as to maybe this individual still in school or on the job hunt, any good side projects you think would be sweet to work on, and do you get access to Netflix shows before they get released?
That's so funny. I love it, because even when I told my family that I'm doing Netflix, they're like, "Oh, do you get free Netflix?" And it's like, relax. But anyways, so any good advice for side projects to work on? I would definitely say I would recommend working on projects that you're passionate about. So if you're into software engineering, I've seen a lot of good opportunity. I got a lot of good projects where the person kind of learns an additional language or something like that when it comes to programming and that type of stuff. So that's great. Or even there's a good like GitHub and that type of stuff. So good opportunity to work on some of those projects as well. So definitely, I would say anything that that can overall kind of sharpen your overall skill set and proficiency, I would recommend doing that as well. And do I get access to shows before they are released? I'm not sure how to answer that one, because I definitely don't really look to get access before, so we'll pass on that one.
Okay. Oswaldo is wondering, does Netflix offer internships for undergraduate junior students? I'm interested in applying to Netflix.
Yeah, great question. So I think again, our internships are pretty new to Netflix there. So definitely undergraduate, junior students, it can depend. So I would say take a look at the job description. Again, I mentioned that a few times because again, I know that some of those can be kind of misleading, but for us at Netflix, we definitely take the time to ensure that's pretty accurate. Again, if you're interested in applying as well, they'll definitely recommend you doing so. Because of course, like I mentioned before, even for my case, you never know what might happen. So definitely feel free to take a look at. I think it might vary. I specifically am not too sure because I work on hiring for other groups, and I'm not specifically focused on hiring for the interns specifically within Netflix. So I'm not too sure specifically around if it's undergraduate, master's, or PhD, but definitely feel free to apply to that for sure.
Yep. Looks like Michelle's wondering, what resources do you recommend to learn data science, as my school doesn't provide data science courses for first years?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a lot of them that are available right now. I think I've taken on the challenge of also trying to learn the basics of Python through like EDX and that type of stuff. But of course, like Coursera, and I think there's a couple other ones out there. But definitely feel free to take a look at those. There's lots of online courses available as well. So definitely take a look at those.
Sweet. I think to sum up this question, they're wondering if Netflix hires international students.
Gotcha. I think that definitely can vary a little bit. I think you mentioned there in the question, it's more, I think it's local. I think even before kind of all of this, we're definitely looking at hiring folks local, not only local to California, but to work in California as well. So the chances of securing an interview call Netflix for a full-time job, post for international students. I guess we definitely do have offices kind of outside the U.S. So if you're specifically working and living outside the U.S., take a look at those as well, because that might be a better option for you as well.
Right. And our last question here, since you are a technical recruiter, what technical skills are you looking for in a candidate? I think this is a great question to end the open Q&A.
Yeah, great one. And again, I definitely does depend because I've also hired for software engineers. So definitely looking at folks that work on backend, Java, and that type of stuff as their skill set. Currently with hiring for under data science group, I also hire for analytics engineers. So folks that have good analytics experience, also within data engineering, kind of some of their highly distributed skills as well. So as far as like working in different tools like Spark, Python, that type of stuff. So it can vary, but if there are, again, I referenced the job description again because definitely listed in there are kind of the technical what it would be required and kind of what technical skill sets we're looking for. So yeah, definitely get those for sure.
Sweet. That's awesome advice, Anthony. And thank you so much to everyone that submitted a question, and Anthony for sharing your story with me and the Internship community. To those watching live, we hope this was very helpful for you. If you have any questions or follow-ups, Anthony mentioned this a lot of times, but feel free to reach out to him via LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me or to Internmakers, and we'll do our best to help you out. If you want to hear more amazing stories like this one, make sure to follow Internmakers on our social media platforms. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for tuning in, y'all. Bye.